Joe, what the hell's up, dude? We had a couple of busy ass weeks, me and you. We're just gonna wing this shit, dude. What do you think about that? You like that?
It's gonna be fun.
I think it's a great idea, dude. All right, we hope everybody's doing good. It was a pretty interesting week last week. We, of course, we were sort of busy this weekend, and we sat out most of the DFS weekend. I think you were able to enter a couple of things in there, and they were good lineups. But all the people that we really were keying in on fucking killed it this week, of course, the week that we don't play. So I'll chalk that up as an overall win. We technically did come out as positive, but I mean, there were definitely some interesting goings on of the weekend. Joe, what was one of the things that you picked out of this weekend that you were not really expecting to happen, or that you thought was a pretty big surprise, otherwise, that we didn't think going into the weekend?
Well, I think the two things that, I don't know if other people thought they were surprises, but that were really encouraging was to see Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson both perform so well now that they're separated and not getting in each other's way. They both been saying pretty much their whole careers, and certainly all this year, that as a running back, it's really hard to get in a rhythm and all of this stuff if you're coming in for one play, coming out for one play. And Sean's proven that he can't navigate that over the years. That if he has more than two running backs, that he just subs them in and out too much, and they really can't get it done.
Yeah, they really are. They're just absolutely back and forth. It's like they're playing Frogger, dude. They're constantly in and out of the game.
They run so much more getting on and off the field than they do actually in the game. But with only two, it looks like both Ingram and Kamara are definitely playable in every size league, and it looks like Peterson still has it. I mean, the Cardinals got their offensive line back, and that combined with a running back who isn't terrible did really good things for them. So, I don't think Adrian Peterson is the Adrian Peterson of old, and he's not going to do what he did this week every week, but he's definitely startable. I mean, they're a reasonably good offense, not a top offense, but reasonably good with his new offensive line, and he's going to get a ton of carries. So,
yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting. I thought that was an interesting discovery as well. I thought that Mark was going to do well this week. I obviously didn't think he was going to do quite as well as he wound up doing. I thought more carries would benefit Peterson. I didn't think that he was all of a sudden the Peterson of old or anything like that. But they're both running backs who, remarkably, in this 21st century of people being a running back by committee, they've both very, very clearly expressed that they take carries to get into their rhythm, and they're kind of old style backs like that. So yeah, it was interesting to see that basically what they were saying is absolutely true. And I just think it was a good trade for everyone, right? I think it wound up, there's not too many of these that you see ultimately work out for just everyone involved, right? The Cardinals get what they wanted. They needed somebody to fill in on a week that they got their line back too, which really, really helps them a lot. I mean, this was the first week that the Cardinals have actually played any sort of, protective offensive line play at all whatsoever. Both of the talented, Saints backs get more touches, which they deeply needed because they're obviously performing well and making the most of both of their carries. I also thought, very interestingly, in this game, it helped the Saints play calling a lot. It seemed like they were much more disguised in what they could do because they have two players that are almost exactly or at least both equal in the ability to do either running or pass catching at a mediocre level, right? Or mediocre or better, right? Yeah. So they were much more balanced in that sense as well. And then it just worked out for the Cardinals. I mean, they got 130 yards and 2 touchdowns out of AP. I mean, they desperately needed to reincarnate their running game, especially because Andre Ellington was basically a glorified receiver, and Kerwin Williams just, it's nothing against. Yeah, it's nothing against the guy. It's just there's going to be a lot of players that are in the league for a few years that are decent players, but he's not going to be a stud, and it's not like they need him to be a stud because David Johnson suffered a freak injury and he'll be right back. So they had no long-term plans for that guy anyway. That's why they got so many they signed a player off the Patriots practice squad. They've now traded for a player. They basically turned another guy that they had previously used at wide receiver back to running back, and they did all kinds of things to try and fill this gap. And Kerwin Williams just isn't the guy. So it's good that they found somebody to at least fill in for this year, and hopefully that works out for going forward. Something that I was pretty surprised about this weekend was just the Actually, I'm gonna talk about two defensive things because this was one of the bigger defensive weeks in a long, long time, like in recent memory. This was one of a huge defensive scoring week. But I'm gonna talk about one going in the right direction, one going in the wrong direction. I'm gonna keep talking about the Saints again for just a minute because they had a really impressive weekend on both sides of the ball for different reasons. The Saints are headed in the right direction defensively, and they don't look to be fluky. I thought this game was going to be a pretty good tell, and then next week should be a good tell as well by potentially shutting out a bad defense without Aaron Rodgers. But the other defense that I was really surprised about this weekend is the Denver Broncos, and they just continue to not be the unit that everyone thought that they were going to be before the year. Now, I thought that it was possible that they would fall off at least a bit, and I talked about this with a few other people, but they really, like, when I watch them on tape, they're underwhelming in a way that I did not think that they would, even statistically, if they were worse this year.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't good against the run last year, and they started off better against the run this year, and it seemed that the Giants really took it to them, based off of running the ball, which is weird because the Giants are so bad at it for years. But I think they're really missing Wade Phillips here.
Yeah.
Wade Phillips and they lost to Marcus Ware and Shane Ray, so they're missing that other bookend to Von Miller, and on top of that they lost Wade Phillips. So they still have the excellent cornerbacks, but they revamped the safety group. They got rid of T.J. Ward, and they lost their other pass rusher. So it's not terribly surprising, as you said, that they've dropped off a little bit. It was very surprising that they dropped off that much to the Giants.
Yeah, I guess that's a better way to put it. They have underwhelmed a bit. They haven't played crappy defense or anything like that. I mean, they're still a very, very talented defensive team. Yeah, maybe it is a bit chalked up to Wade Phillips, but man, not being able to stop the Giants that should be taking candy from a baby at this point. As long as you could stack 8 in the box pretty much, and they really don't have anybody to throw to. I mean, they are very decimated on offense, and their offensive line is not very good. Ben McAdoo's a shit play caller, and Eli Manning.
Let's go ahead and give McAdoo credit here. He didn't call the plays this week.
Yeah, he did. He was smart enough to hand it over to someone else.
He fired himself, and it worked. I mean, good for him for recognizing that it wasn't working, and then you need to try something different. And maybe the Giants are going to run the ball more. I don't know, but Orleans Stark was a guy that you should pick up.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would even, if they stay committed to this, I would even consider adding Wayne Gallman, because I don't think one person can handle that many carries in that backfield. And Wayne Gallman showed a propensity to catch much better than anyone else in that backfield, if you ask me. Like, the eye tests showed me that Gallman is a better player than pretty much everyone else in that backfield. So if especially if it's a deep league, or if I need a speculative ad or something like that on somebody who could potentially give me some firepower later on in the season. I mean, Darkwa, let's put it this way. Darkwa in this game alone, just this game, had over a quarter of all of the yards that the top running back had last year in their offense. Like, that's how bad they were last year. That's how not good they've really been this year. But this was a good rushing game from the Giants. And maybe you're right. Maybe I can't assume that it was anything but the play calling. Like, McAdoo's been so, yeah, literally nothing else changed. And they only got worse. Like, they're only in a worse shape personnel wise. And yeah, I think Wade Phillips is a pretty good point to bring out of this whole thing. And not only that, his new team has also looked better too. Like, I understand that they haven't come out as strong as they were in the beginning of the year, especially with the way that the offense looked. But the Rams are improved on defense as well. It's just like Wade Phillips is such a good defensive coordinator, dude. Like, it's the way that it is.
Yeah, the other thing I was a little surprised about this weekend, we'll have to talk about this going forward a little bit, although maybe it's less important this week, is like, man, the Falcons are still really struggling on offense. You thought maybe they go into the bye week and figure it out. They're playing the Dolphins defense is good, but they're playing a Dolphins offense that's going to give the Falcons a lot of tries because the Dolphins offense is going to punt a lot. So, you would have thought that they'd have been able to get something going, but they really struggled again.
Yeah, you said that the Dolphins defense is good. I don't know that I would go with good right now, but
I don't think they've given up more than 20 points all season.
yeah, I mean they've played well, and but the thing to me that was so like bad was that they match up terribly with the Falcons. Like they don't have good they don't have good linebackers. I mean their linebacker play is fine, but they don't have excellent linebackers by any sense of the imagination, and they're sort of slow. And like that's the matchup that they should just absolutely eat their lunch, dude. Like they should have killed them. But to me, it's just like when Matt Ryan doesn't have his go-to check down of one of his running backs, it's like he has no idea what to do. He can't figure out what else to do. He threw a nice deep ball to a no-name guy this weekend. And I mean, he found some of their passes. Like I don't think he's all of a sudden a terrible quarterback, but it's just you can tell he's either regressed or he's just missing Shanahan. But he's had better years in this in the past, even before Shanny was there. So I don't know. Maybe Sarkisian is really an issue. Like it could be really an issue of Sarkisian because Dan Quinn he's not calling any of these plays. Like he doesn't have anything to do with the offense at all. I find it really worrisome that they are just not getting on track in any way whatsoever, and they have skilled players like at the position. I thought Hooper played well this game. Personally, I thought Hooper played pretty well this game. He ran good routes. He made good plays after the catch. Like I thought Hooper played a pretty good. He even blocked decently this game, which is not really what he's there to do. Like they don't have him there to do that. Like he's not really meant to be a blocker, and he even blocked pretty well this game. He had two great seal blocks for Devontae Freeman to get those open. The two big runs that he had. But yeah, it's just like they can't put it together. And to me, a lot of the blame seems to fall on Matt Ryan and Sarkisian. Does it look any different to you? Do you think that anybody else is doing something obviously terrible? Like, I think their offensive line is playing really well, too. I don't think it's a line problem at all.
No, I mean, they're the same. I mean, all their skill position players are the same as it was last year,
Yeah.
right? And, like,
Right.
it's not like those guys are dropping the ball or not doing what they were doing last year. So the only thing it can be really is some combination of Matt Ryan and Steve Sarkisian not being on the same page, or Matt Ryan not being comfortable, or the Super Bowl hangover, thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they need to start giving it to Julio more.
Yeah, they really, really do. Like I don't know what you see on tape that tells you, hey, this dude is a star player. Let's not give it to him. Like I don't see. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's perplexing. Like their running backs are good, and they do. I understand if they want to funnel the offense through them. I think it's a good way to move their offense. Like I also think Tevin Coleman is a better running back than Devontae Freeman. You've been saying that for a while. Like I know you have. Like Tevin Coleman is a better. I'm saying it now so that everyone can hear it. Like Tevin Coleman is a better running back than Devontae Freeman is. Devontae Freeman has that wiggle about him, but Tevin Coleman is just an all around like better back. That dude's just a stud, but like I don't know what they would see that tells them, hey, let's not throw it to Julio Jones. Like they should be force feeding it, and especially around the end zone, they need to be throwing him the ball. And I just don't. I don't know. I don't get it. So yeah, that was a surprising thing for me this weekend too. All right, well let's go by game. Let's do a quick breakdown, and then we'll maybe talk about some waiver things. We'll ask if anybody has any questions. Then we'll get up out of here. The first game that we have this weekend is the Chiefs-Raiders game. This is a Thursday night game, and it's a divisional game. It's like all the things that you really don't want in a football game when you're talking about fantasy purposes. But nonetheless, Derek Carr will be back in this game. He played last game right after E.J. Manuel threw an interception on the very first play from scrimmage. But I expect him to be healthier this week. He looked a little limited last week. I think they didn't want him to play, and then they were like, crap, we don't want to lose this game. Let's play. And then they lost. But I think that he should be healthier this week. I think every week that he gets back, he'll gain more strength in his back, and he'll look more like the Derek Carr that we're used to. But I think that my sights are going to be set on the Chiefs side of this game. What about you? I mean,
I don't think Derek Carr's ready. He didn't look good, and 3 days of rest isn't going to make him any better. It's a Thursday game. People play bad, and people with injuries especially play bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have less time. You just have less time.
Yeah. That's all. I mean, I'm not criticizing him in any way. Just if your back hurts and then you got tackled a bunch of times, and 3 days later it's not going to feel any better. He just needs more rest. It'll be good for him to get to Thursday to next Sunday break. He's going to. That would be when I would look for him to bounce back. But on the Chiefs, yeah. So the Raiders, I'm kind of shying away. Like Crabtree's really the only person that I'd be excited about playing in this one. They just don't run the ball with a single player enough for me to get excited about any of their running backs.
Yep.
On the Chiefs side, like the Raiders' defense is fine. They're like better than they were last year, but they're not very good.
No, they're not good.
I mean, they're like not the worst defense in the league, but they're not the best. The only thing is that this could be a Thursday game, and the Chiefs are on the road, so they might not try to score a ton of points. But I fire up all your Chiefs. Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, and Travis Kelce.
I think Kareem Hunt has a huge game this game. I think this is a huge game for Kareem Hunt. I think you're going to see a ton of usage out of him. I don't think that they're going to go crazy and do anything really off the wall. And I just think he's going to line up and beat him. Like I don't think the Raiders aren't fast on defense. Like Khalil Mack is a really good player, but they're not fast on defense. And the Chiefs have a ton of speed between Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. Like I just think, and I mean Kelsey's a fast tight end, but it's as fast as a tight end will be. But I think that their focus will mostly lie on shutting down Kelsey, and I think they'll do their best to stop the run, but I just don't think they're good enough to actually physically stop it. Tyreek Hill could go off in this game. I just don't think that you're going to see a ton of need for the deep ball and stuff like that. He could get a return touchdown or some nonsense like that, but yeah, I'd fire up all the Chiefs. I just think this will be a really good game for Kareem Hunt. It's a shame he's not going to be available in DFS. So, all right, next game is Ravens-Vikings. This is a defense game if I've ever seen them.
Play the Vikings defense. Don't play anybody else.
I would love to play the Vikings defense in this game. I would love to sit every Raider in the history of man in this game. Like there's no chance I'm touching any of those guys. I'm not afraid to play McKinnon just because of the usage he's going to get.
Oh yeah, you can play McKinnon. Yeah, that's definitely. I think he'll be good. I mean, Jordan Howard had an interesting game against the Ravens. He actually didn't have a great game, and then he had a 50 or 60 yard run in overtime.
Yeah. But I mean, he still had like 110 yards. They just pound the rock with him so much that he's going to get
36 carries before overtime. He had about 30 carries or so for
like 110 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, and even a lot of that was at the end because the Bears were in a positive game flow. In other words, I don't think the Ravens are that easy to run against. They're not hard to run against, but I don't think they're that easy to run against. But McKinnon's not really a run it up the middle kind of guy. That's
what I was saying. I mean, it's just the way that they operate their offense. He's going to get carries, and some of them will be good, some of them will be duds, but he's going to get a lot of work in the passing game as well. And even if you're not playing PPR, what he yields in the passing game winds up being really worth it. It's 50 or 60 yards and potentially a touchdown every single week. So you're talking about anywhere from 5 to 11 points, whereas there's plenty of running backs that are in the fantasy universe right now that barely get that no matter what. Their entire game score is 5 to 11 points, right? And you're getting that just out of the passing game from him. And then you'll get runs up the middle. He may get 30 yards. He could have 90 yards. Like if he breaks one, he's very, very fast. I mean, he could take it to the house. So, yeah, that's why I'm not afraid to play him in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. I mean, the Bears defense is better than we've been saying it all year. They're better than people think. But the Ravens didn't even get close to scoring an offensive touchdown.
No. I mean, the Bears are good. Like, I think that the Bears are good. And the other thing is that this game is going to be played. Oh, that's never mind. We'll talk about the Bears coming up sooner. But Bears
are good. Vikings are better. And they're playing in Minnesota.
Yep.
I don't want anybody do not be involved in the Ravens offense this week.
Yeah, please don't. All right, next is going to be the Saints-Packers game. Joe, this could be the game of the week, but we've expressed our concerns about this game as well, especially with the Saints defense coming online a bit, Brett Hundley playing with Aaron Rodgers being out for the season. There's a couple of interesting pieces to this whole puzzle. Ty Montgomery could go absolutely wild because the Saints still aren't good at covering pass-catching running backs. Aaron Jones might see 30 runs up the middle, and he probably won't get very far because the Saints have been very good on their rushing defense. But the other thing is that the Saints may be content in this game to just not score a lot of points and try and win the game, right? This could be a 13-10 victory or something. That's very not when you were looking at the schedule at the beginning of the season, that's not the tag that you would have put on this game, is a low scoring, right? But that very well could be how this game plays out. So I think this would normally be the game of the week, but I think that I'm going to parlay and say that it's not, just because the game flow could be very different because of things that we are obviously unforeseen before the season started, or even before last week started. Like, I can tell you in this game, I'm not going to play Jordy Nelson. Like, the whole Jordy Nelson thing is like a Rodgers targets him around the end zone all the time. It's not a play call driven thing. It's just a Rodgers loves Jordy kind of thing. And especially with Marshawn Lattimore playing, I mean, amongst some of the best corners in the entire league this year, especially the way that he plays coverage, he just never gives anything up, right? It's not that he does really, really well and he makes a lot of picks and then he gives up a big play. He just doesn't give anything up. He just smothers. Yeah, he's in their hip pocket the entire time. He gets a lot of pass breakups. He won't necessarily get a lot of interceptions, but he's just going to be there to always defend the play or deter throwing in general, right? He just deters the throw in the first place. So I think there's going to be a lot of checkdowns in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of attempted runs to try and play conservative with Hundley, and I think the Saints are just going to buy into that and be okay with that. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, I also think it's going to be a little bit less offensive than people think it's going to be. You mentioned earlier that the weather's not going to be great. The Saints are playing outside on the road.
Yep.
And I think they're gonna feel pretty content to let their defense try to win this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like still play Drew Brees and Mike Thomas and Mark Ingram and probably even Kamara.
Yeah.
Still play those guys, but I don't think the Saints are gonna go nuts and go for a shootout like they might if this game were being played in the dome. On the Packers side, the guy for me is Ty Montgomery and Randall Cobb. I mean, those guys.
Yeah, I think Randall Cobb's a good one too.
Right at what the Saints are bad at, which is their linebacking group is not very good in coverage, and Kenny Vaccaro is not very good in coverage.
Yeah.
And those are the guys who cover the running backs and the
slot
guy.
receiver. Yeah.
So if I had to play any Packers, I'm playing those two. I'm not crazy about the other guys. The Saints have done a pretty good job the last 3 weeks of not giving up anything deep. With the exception of one exceptional catch that you really can't defend that the Lions made this week.
Yeah, that was really good.
And the Saints' rush defense is pretty good, so I'm not gonna go get excited about Aaron Jones this week.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're even better than pretty good. I mean, they're like top 6 or 7 in the league this year. I mean, they're giving up like 75 yards a game, and Aaron Jones hasn't shown me anything that makes me think that he can beat that. So. Yeah, I mean,
I'm expecting more than the 13-10 that you mentioned, but
no.
I'm expecting this game to get into the 30s.
Yeah. What I meant was that could be a number, a final score of this game that nobody would have expected at the beginning of the season. I don't actually think this will be 13-10. I think that one of these teams,
20-13, 24-17.
Yeah,
like
it's not going to be the 42-35 that you thought it may be, a couple of weeks ago. Because this would have been a juicy matchup. I mean, a great passing offense versus a really bad passing defense, and just even with a good defense the good defense that the Saints have been playing, Aaron Rodgers is just too good to be stalled out. He just would not be denied completely, especially at home. So it's just, it's very, very unlikely this would have been a low scoring game, but alas, that's how things change during the season. So speaking of now a defensive game, probably the Jets-Dolphins is the next game. You were talking about the Dolphins at the beginning of the broadcast, and you're right. They've been playing pretty well. The Jets offense has not been absolutely abysmal.
On defense, they've been playing pretty well on defense.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Jets are exploitable on defense, but they've been playing also better as well. I just don't think that this is going to be much of a skill matchup I want any side of, really.
Ajayi is the only person. I think that they're looking to get Ajayi back on track here. I think that they realize that Jay Cutler sucks and they need to run the ball as much as possible. I see the Dolphins going the Jaguars route here and just running it every chance they get. So Ajayi's a good play for me this week. Anybody else, I don't think so. This is going to be a low-scoring stinker. There's no skill on either team here.
Yeah, I just think that I think you brought up a good point with the whole Jaguars thing. I think it's just mitigating the bad quarterbacks, I think that's
Yeah.
their best option at this point is mitigating a bad quarterback. And if you watch the game last week, this is why we watch the games for you. Joe and I were talking about this a lot before the broadcast. All of their run play, like almost all of the Dolphins' plays, they just lined up with like Jarvis Landry just barely outside, and then like 9 people in the or on the line, and just plowed their way up the middle. That's what they did every single play. You know it's coming, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. I mean, Ajayi's not like he's not poo. Like he's not bad. He's not too bad to where if you get him 4 yards before contact, he'll trip over the line or something. Like he's a good player. He just needs the blocking to forge the way, especially with a quarterback that just has no ability to get anything going like Cutler has been. So I think they're just going to line up with 9, put a bunch of tight ends in the box, a bunch of extra linemen, and I think they're just going to line up and try and run too. So I like Ajayi this week too. How much is he on DraftKings? I forgot to check that. He is...
Yeah, well, I'll let you go. He's 6,200.
Yeah, 6,200, which is just for somebody who gets 20 plus carries and they're starting to get their run game going. And on top of that, they're playing a team that is susceptible to give up big runs, and they're just still not talented overall. Like that's a name I'm willing to pay for $6,200 just because it's such good value for all the potential runs that you're going to get.
Yeah, the only other guy that I'm maybe interested in this game is if it's a cheapo tight end is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He's had touchdowns in each of the last 2 weeks, and he had a second one last week that got taken away.
Yes, he did. You're right.
So they're obviously looking. I don't think he's that great. Obviously, the Jets are looking for him, and the Dolphins have a poo linebacking core. So the Dolphins linebacking core is so bad that they traded for Stephon Anthony, who couldn't even make basically couldn't make the team on the Saints poo linebacking core.
Yeah.
So that's how bad the Dolphins linebacking core is. I think that Austin Seferian-Jenkins has a chance here. There's not any other when you're getting a cheapo tight end, you're hoping for a touchdown. They've been looking for him in the red zone, and the Dolphins aren't good at covering it. So.
He's really their only good player in the red zone. I mean, Jermaine Kearse is a fine receiver. Robbie Anderson is an okay receiver, but they're both kind of speedy, go long, find a way to catch it, guys, find a way to beat their man, guys. Like they just find a way to scrappy get it done. But Seferian-Jenkins is by far the best player that they have that's in the red zone. So I'd be willing to play him too. Next game is Panthers-Bears. This is another one. Like I'm telling people, I'm warning everyone right now, Cam has not looked that good in his games. Like he's looked okay. I understand he's better. It looks like he's back on track. He's still not running the way that I would like him to run. He's still not, in my eyes, Cam, and his completion percentage has been inflated by going 10 of 12 to McCaffrey and dump passes. Like he's not all of a sudden really, really looking stellar to me. The Panthers have just found a way to win their games, and they've played good defense along the way. I'm not nothing against their defense, but I'm telling you, with the scare that Luke Kuechly had this weekend, he means so much to their defense. That dude is potentially a concussion away from like calling it quits. He's in that spot where concussions are such a big deal nowadays, and he's had such bad scares that he's maybe a concussion away from calling it quits. And if that happens, like their defense will crumble. They won't completely fall apart, but they'll be in significantly worse shape than they were before, especially considering their backup that they had for a long time is now gone. So the Bears are at home. They play good defense. I hate that field. The Panthers probably hate that field because everyone hates that field except the Bears. I would just play defenses in this game. Like I think that both offenses are turnover prone, and I think that they both play good defense as it is. So I would just play defenses in this game. You can play Jordan Howard, you can play McCaffrey in PPR, you can play Benjamin, I guess, but I definitely don't want quarterbacks in this game. I want to stay as far away from quarterbacks as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Howard, like, you got to play him. I mean, he
just gets too many rushes.
So many rushes. He had 36 carries last week. The Bears are another team that are going this Jaguars route of saying, like, screw it, we suck too bad at throwing. We're just going to run it every time.
Yeah.
And they have 2 running backs who are capable. So
actually, I think their problem is more, just to kind of interject this, is just sort of a random thought. It's their receivers, not their quarterback. It's a bit different. So that's all. I mean, that's just as equally frustrating, though. It's just a more easily fixable problem, I guess. So in the offseason, I would look for them to probably be a bigger candidate to rebound in the passing game than maybe some of these other teams that are really struggling that have to draft a new quarterback and see how it works out.
Yeah, don't play anybody except Jordan Howard and McCaffrey if you are in PPR.
Yeah, that's the preferable people that I want to play. I don't even.
Especially with Kelvin hurt himself today in practice. Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he hurt his knee, the one that was surgically repaired and then hurt against the Saints earlier this year. He tweaked it in practice today. He may not play, and if he does, he may not be 100%. I'm just shy away.
The other thing is that, dude, people haven't been paying attention, but Cooper, the defensive back for the Bears, he's been playing like almost shut down football. He really has. He made a boneheaded play where on that touchdown where Pittsburgh stripped it from him. Like he made a boneheaded play and he got called a jackass and everything, and like everybody thought that he was playing really bad. The coach benched him for the next series and all of that, but every time that he's been on the field, like he's made really good plays. He's been almost shut down. So Kelvin's probably going to see him, and he's good at covering big guys. Like I just don't want it. Like I don't want it. They generate a good pass rush. I just don't want it.
Stay away here.
Yeah, next game is
Cardinals at Rams.
Yep.
Cardinals at Rams. Last week we saw Adrian Peterson go nuts. What do you think about him this week?
I have to. He's given me reason to believe that with at least their line being back, like I have to give him a chance, right? I just don't think that there's any way, especially if you picked him up, you were probably, just with the way that running back's been this year, it's doubtful that you have 3 other people that you can play ahead of him that are really worthwhile, that are also going to get 20 carries and have touchdown upside and play in a good offensive system for running backs. Tell me how many other people there are even like that in the league. Like,
and I think in standard he's clearly like a mid-range RB2.
Yeah, yeah.
And in PPR he drops a bit to like a low-end RB2 because he's going to get 0 catches.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that if you have him on your roster, you have to play him. In DFS, I'm not as crazy about him because his price actually shot up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Considering he had one good game.
Well, I think the whole thing with the DFS is, if I'm understanding it correctly, what I've seen in the past is when somebody changes teams at all, it's almost like it wipes the slate clean. Yeah. So he basically is 1 for 1 good game. Right. So his price is really high. So, I probably wouldn't play him in DFS either, just because we don't exactly know what we have from him yet. He looked good. Like I'm not going to deny anybody. I'm a huge Adrian Peterson fan. It was just not a good fit for him and the Saints. I don't blame them for trying. I don't blame him for taking the deal that he got. But this trade worked out for everyone, and with them having their line back, I got to roll him out there. I got to play him. I also think that this just inherently helps everyone on the Cardinals offense too. Like this helps everyone else a whole lot, especially Carson Palmer. Like Carson Palmer is playable again with a running back that can hand the ball off to.
Yeah, it definitely helps the whole offense. The reason I'm not big about Adrian Peterson in DFS is because he doesn't, DFS is PPR and he doesn't catch the ball.
Yeah. For DraftKings, it's PPR. Yeah, you're right.
I just don't like running backs that don't get catches because it just gives them such a higher floor if they can catch the ball, because you just get 5 catches, you automatically get 5 points. You're not gonna do bad.
Right.
So I'm not crazy about him in that. But on the Rams side, the Cardinals defense is pretty good, and Patrick Peterson struggled a little bit against Mike Evans last week in the sense that Evans had 90 yards and a touchdown, but he only had 3 catches. So
yeah, they came on chunk play. They came on typical Buccaneer plays, like the typical Buccaneer plays.
So it's still hard to throw against Patrick Peterson, and so I'm fading Sammy Watkins to a do not play in this game.
Yeah, I'm fading Sammy
Watkins in any size league or anything. Just don't play him.
Yep. But on the other hand, I'll play Robert Woods all day because he's going to get Justin Bethel. And I'm not terribly afraid of playing Cooper Kupp because I think that Tyrann Mathieu, while not playing as well as he has in the past, I think that whole defense has just been lackluster this year. Even last week, I didn't think that they looked particularly good. I think that Tyrann Mathieu is going to get some of Cooper Kupp and then probably a decent amount of either Gerald Everett or Tyler Higbee, because Sean McVay somehow makes those two no-names look relevant. Like he makes it look like the tight ends are going to be a factor in the game, right? And if you don't cover him, he does make them a factor in the game. So I think that you're going to see Tyrann cover one of those at least part of the game. So I don't think that Cooper Kupp will see Tyrann Mathieu the entire game, so I'm not terribly afraid of playing him either. They haven't been great against the slot so far. And with Sammy Watkins basically being eliminated from the game, those are going to be your two major targets. And it's just, dude, anybody who goes deep against Justin Bethel, just fire him up. It's easy, dude. It's so easy.
You got your Deshaun Jackson touchdown last week against Justin Bethel, so you'll get your Robert Woods one this week.
Yep.
And of course, like Todd Gurley, play him. Like
yeah, of course.
Don't be stupid. Play him.
Yeah, silly.
Every week. Bucks Bills. This one could be interesting. We don't know what's happening with Jameis Winston, if he's playing or not. He has a sprained throwing shoulder, which is not good. He of course says he thinks he's going to play, but I'd be a little more cautious. I think he probably won't. That being said, his backup is just like a worse version of him, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Both of them love throwing it to the other team. Fitzpatrick just doesn't really throw it to his own team ever. So, fade all of the Bucks receivers this week. Maybe Mike Evans could go do well. Mike Evans is the kind of receiver that Fitzpatrick has succeeded with in the past.
Yeah.
Which is to say, a guy that he can throw bad passes to and he'll catch him anyway.
Yep.
So that's your best bet out of the Bucks side, and expect them to run the ball a lot with Doug Martin. The Bills have a really, really good defense, but Doug's just gonna get a lot of carries.
And their pass defense is much better than their run defense is. Their run defense is still good, but their pass defense is much better than their run defense is. I think it should be pretty clearly noted that the Bills, in my eyes, almost still have not given up a passing touchdown this entire season. Trey White got matched up with AJ Green, and AJ Green gave him a good welcome to the NFL. Right? That's basically what happened. Trey White played poorly on 2 plays, really. Is really all that happened. It was kind of an unfortunate situation. Trey White played poorly for 2 plays, and AJ Green just made him pay for it, right? That is not going to happen every single week. He's likely not going to be on Mike Evans this week because he just won't guard him. I think he's going to match up with see who it was. Anyway, but they're way more capable of being run on than they are being passed on, and so I think that's also going to be why you're going to see a lot of running this week.
So on the Bills side, talked about this earlier. We think Shady's a good play, and probably nobody else is because they don't have any other players.
That's it. That's about that. And the Bucks are not bad on defense. They're
not bad. They did just get slammed by Adrian Peterson, so Shady's better than him at this point.
Yeah.
Next game's Jaguars Colts. Yikes.
Play your running backs. That's it.
Defense has been really good. Yeah, they can be run on, but don't throw against them. Don't play any Colts receivers or anything like that.
0.
Don't play Jacoby Brissett. Nothing like that. You can. On the Colts side, even the running backs, they're kind of splitting carries almost 50-50 at this point. It just really sucks. Their offense isn't good enough to support 2, so they support 0.
Pretty much. Mac only got 2 carries last week. The thing is when he touches the ball, he looks good. I just think it's a matter of time before somebody is going to be a week ahead on Mac, and they're going to win the Sunday Million with Mac in their lineup. I just don't know how soon it is. This could be the week. Jacksonville's so easily run on, and there's no other way to move the ball on him. I just think that's possible that this could be the week that he winds up getting more carries than Gore.
There's been a couple of times where he's looked like he's going to do it or even did it, and then next week old Frank comes back again, and
yep.
Just won't go away.
I think there was a good point you brought up earlier about Leonard Fournette and his ankles. You were talking about this not being the same ankle, right?
Right. So in college, he had a nasty a high ankle sprain on his left ankle, and he re-aggravated it basically every week. You can see him wearing LSU hat. I was watching all of those games. He re-aggravated it basically every week, so it was just miserable watching. It was everybody screaming just let the guy sit out for 2 weeks and get right, and they wouldn't do it. This is not that same ankle.
Right.
this now is a right ankle sprain. It's a minor ankle sprain. It's not a high ankle sprain. So I feel comfortable playing him this week. If it was the left ankle, I would say like shy away. There's a good chance he's gonna tweak it and be coming in and out of the game constantly and just be really really annoying and not have any explosion. They said last week he taped it up and was ready to go back in the game and didn't because they were losing by too much. So I think that Fournette is a go this week.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. At this point in the season, with how the Jaguars have looked in their usage of Leonard, is there anybody in the fantasy universe you're not willing to trade for him?
Is there anybody? So you're saying like?
Is
yes.
it? Is it?
Yes.
Are there a lot of players that you would not be willing?
No,
I mean, like he's up there, dude. Like he's really up there.
Survive, he is a top 5 player in fantasy football the rest of the year.
I think so too. I honestly
touchdowns he's not going to get a touchdown in every single game this year.
No, he won't.
But 6 in a row is pretty good, and I mean he just gets so much volume.
Yeah, he's a talented player and he gets an insane amount of volume. And standard, he's at least to me almost as good as anyone. Maybe not Bell, just because he's literally a receiver and a running back in one. Like that's and if David Johnson was around too, he would fall in the same category. Hunt is probably up there as well, and Gurley has been getting that same type of also pass catching excess this year. But man, and probably Antonio is obviously just every single week just absolute monster yardage numbers, but he won't get the same touchdown. I don't know. He probably is. Yeah, those are probably the only guys that I would want something else extra. But like Leonard's right there. That's
I think
how
I like
important.
Fournette better than Gurley. For a couple of
if you offered like someone else that trade straight up, I'd be like, yeah, I can see both sides of it. Whatever side you wanted to be on, I would understand either side. Like I think I would probably be on Fournette's side as well, but like just barely, especially more in standard than in PPR. But yeah, I could see how you could make an argument for both sides of those without a doubt. Like he's been that good, and I think his usage will continue to be that good. So I would honestly encourage people this week, if you're willing to take, like if you need to take a chance on something and somebody's worried about his ankle injury, go get him. Like I think this would be a great time to go try and acquire him.
Definitely. Might be your only chance.
Yeah, it really that's true. It may be your only chance to try and acquire him. He's just on a tear right now. So next game is Titans Browns. This is gonna be an interesting one just from a sheer aspect of like, are the Browns gonna win a game this year? Are they gonna go? What's gonna be the game that they win this year? They're doing the tank. Like it's until one of San Francisco or the Browns loses the game, they were both gonna keep losing. Like until one of them wins a game, they're gonna both keep losing and call each other's bluff to see who's gonna get first pick.
San Francisco's gonna win first.
They have to.
They've been
right?
so close.
Yeah, they have a better. Here you go. San Francisco, who is 0-6, has a better point differential than the 3-3 Cardinals.
They've lost like all their games by like 3 points or less or something.
The Cardinals are -33 in their point differential. Or I'm sorry, -37 in their point differential. The 49ers are -33 in their point differential. All their losses have been really close, with the exception of one, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. So they're like I know like their due is not a thing that you should actually ever say, but like their due. Like you in the NFL, like close games are essentially like a coin toss, more or less.
Right.
Like,
and they've landed on tails 6 times in a row, dude.
They're gonna win one of these.
Yeah. So the Browns, I just don't think that the Browns will win this game. Like I don't think that they have much of a chance to win this game at all. I think the Titans are just all around a better team. I do think that Duke Johnson has a chance because the secondary is so garbo. I think that Duke Johnson has a chance to catch 10 balls for 130 yards, kind of thing. But I just don't know that I want anybody else in this game, or rather, I'll play on the Brown side. Sorry, I'll take the Titans. What do you think about the whole Derrick Henry DeMarco Murray situation?
I think that it's very game flow based. I think that if you think the Titans are going to lose, which this is not one of those games, then DeMarco Murray is the guy. He catches way better, and he starts the game and plays the 2-minute drill, and then they alternate series in the middle. But Derrick Henry is our closer. and this is a game that they're going to be closing. So if I had to pick one, I'm picking Derrick Henry this week.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair.
It might be surprising to some people because, DeMarco is still the starter. He's still the guy you want long term. He's going to get more touches in games that matter. I don't think this is going to end up being a game that matters in the sense that I think that the Titans will get up and then in the second half they're going to run the ball. And when they're doing that in the second half to close the game, it's Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think those are good points. Next game is Cowboys 49ers. Joe, this is like up there in the contenders for game of the week, right? Like these at least
definitely
exist playmakers on both sides of the team. And yes, their defenses are not very good on either side of the ball here. Both of these teams have a pass rush, so you could see an injured quarterback, but Dak is pretty mobile. I mean, Dak just doesn't go down easily. Like he's really good at staying up and extending the play and at least throwing it away. He's played pretty conservative, so I don't expect any like turnovers out of the 49ers or anything here. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if CJ Beathard plays this game and plays it better than Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer's just been crippling. And what do you know? Like you insert another quarterback here and Shanny's system is just like completely fine. Like if he has another week to get under his belt and play this system, I think he'll be just fine. Like I don't want to play him specifically, but I'll play all their skill position players.
Yeah, Garcon had like only 1 or 2 targets with no catches with Hoyer in the game last week, and then when Beathard came in, he had all of his catches, which was 7 or 8 catches on 10 targets.
He had 10 targets, 5 catches, but he had 4 of his incomplete targets come from Hoyer. 4 of them.
All of his catches came from Beathard. So, I mean, like the point is not that Beathard is good. The point is that
he's just not cripplingly bad.
This is the system. It's going to work. Garcon is still playable. Play him. Dallas's secondary is bad.
Yep, and to all the people that thought that Matt Breida was all of a sudden somehow the workhorse back, like, get out of here. Come on. We've told you this before. Like,
hides the guy until he gets hurt.
Absolutely. Like, if anything changes, it's that they support 2 full-time running backs. Like, that's the only thing that's changing until Hyde gets hurt. And then Breida's your guy. And Mostert will likely see carries in that situation as well. Like, there will always be 2 guys. Sometimes one will be better than the other. Like, that happens. And for whatever reason, Hyde didn't have an excellent day this week either. Like, he only had 28 yards on the ground. He had 13 carries. He averaged like two. Yeah, but he had 2 touchdowns and he had some catches. Like, that's how this system works. He will score points even when he doesn't do extremely well. And some weeks will be the backup guy will explode and everybody will be like, oh my God, I got to have that guy. It's not his backfield. Stop. That's just not this is the way that the system works. Okay. Just cool your horses.
Play Zeke, he's unsuspended again for now.
Woohoo! If you can't, Joe, are you willing to unload Zeke right now if you have him? Which you do in a couple of leagues, right?
I'm not willing to unload him right now. Wait till Monday or Tuesday and then unload him because people are like thinking about a suspension thing right now. People forget about it early next week, and then his value will be higher.
Yeah.
I think right now his value is actually kind of low. Right.
And he's very likely to have a big game this week. And if that winds up happening, everybody just sees 30 points and they want it,
Well, let me be clear. I do think that his suspension will be lifted. Or not lifted, but I think it's going to get he's going to get the injunction for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I do think that's what's going to happen. But I mean, I'm not sure, and that uncertainty is devalues him a little bit in my eyes. But somebody else may not see it that way. So
and not only that, if you have a talented team that's ready to make a good playoff push, that potentially loss of 25 points a game could be the thing that literally just puts you out of the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. If this is a really good point. If you are comfortable in as far as you think you're going to make the playoffs and you have a good team, now is a reasonable time to trade him to someone who needs him to get to the playoffs.
Right.
And then there's a reasonable chance that at some point in the next few weeks, Zeke will get suspended for the rest of the season.
Right. This is the 2 things that are the qualifiers for me for trading Zeke, right? 2 things. Number 1, I have to get a stud player that replaces his value at least close in some way, right? That's the first thing. The other thing is that I'm not willing to just give up my running back depth completely to trade him away. I need those two things in return. I at least need to get a running back in return that is startable in some form or fashion, even if this requires making a 2-player trade, which it probably will have to be. And I need that, and then I need somebody who replaces the stud value in some way, right? Who gives me the upside of points for the playoffs, especially if I'm ready to make a push for that. So those are the two things. Keep those things in mind before you go around just trading Zeke. Don't think we're just telling you to trade Zeke just to trade him.
Yeah.
Like,
Again,
you have to get proper
high.
value. Yeah. He's still an excellent player, and we do think that the injunction will be granted, and he will play the season, and he'll serve this next year. But it's possible that it doesn't, so you need to prepare for that. And if you're not willing to hold, if you're not willing to take that risk, you need to try and get rid of him. So consider those things. Are you playing anybody else from the Cowboys?
Dez is fine this week. The 49ers don't have anybody that's going to lock him down, so Dez is fine.
Yeah, I actually think this is probably going to be one of Dez's best weeks in the entire season.
Yeah, I think so too. The other Cowboys receivers, I mean, Witten is also a good play, but the other Cowboys receivers are just like too inconsistent. I mean, they're too inconsistent, as from a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, I think that they're. I think
better
Dak
real
is.
players.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Move on.
Bengals Steelers. Could be, it's a divisional game in the AFC North, and divisional games in the AFC North are more often than not
slugfest.
Really, really good football games and really, really bad fantasy football games. This one probably is one of the ones that has the potential, because the Steelers are involved, it has the potential to be higher scoring.
And they're home, yeah.
But I still am not feeling good about this game. Something's not right with the Steelers offense. They're going to get it fixed this year. I don't know if it's going to be this week.
I just keep thinking about that comment about the guy who said that Todd Haley's red zone offense is just a 3-ring binder with a bunch of napkins and crayon scribblings all over him right now. Because that's what it seems like, right? Like it seems so bad, and they just have no. They seem to me like they have no purpose to score a touchdown when they get down the red zone. Like, they're so content with scoring field goals that that's their game plan. And field goals don't win in the NFL, dude. They just don't. Like, it's so easy for teams to come back in the fourth quarter and close it out, or come back in the second quarter and get points with 2-minute drills. They're just too easy. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is pretty good, and I think they're almost like leaning on them too much this year. I think they're not putting themselves in a good position on offense. Maybe something is wrong with them, but until I see something like truly telling with Ben, I'm just going to assume that everybody's like healthy and fine and rolling along, and they're just not performing up to their standards. I really don't want many Bengals in this game, just because I think because of the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing. Like, I think they're playing hard defense, and
the Bengals are coming off this bye, so this is their chance to revamp the offense under this new guy to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Mixon is still going to be the guy, and so you can play him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to play AJ Green and stuff like that. I'm just like not going out of my way to play any of these guys.
Yeah, but the Steelers are the most talented team in the NFL, and they need to get their shit together.
Yeah, they're definitely the most talented offense in the NFL. That's for sure.
And their defense is a top 5 or 10 unit right now. They should win the Super Bowl this year. They need to get their shit together.
Yeah.
Seahawks Giants.
Ew.
Yikes.
Just ew. Are there two worse collective lines in the NFL? Are there two worse, like, just crappy fucking offenses that you don't want to have anything to do with when they're not playing well? Like,
yeah, it's not even just the line. Like, bad lines, bad running backs.
Bad running backs, like
bad receivers,
hurt receivers, not offensively minded. Ugh. Like, just
yeah.
Ugh.
The Seahawks are playing 4,000 miles away from home in New York. No.
Don't touch it. Get away. Get out now. Leave. Run. Don't fucking play that game, dude. It's bad.
Don't play anybody in this game.
No.
Broncos Chargers. It's just bad.
It's so terrible. I don't want anything to do with that stupid ass game.
This could be another like
That game's dumb.
6-6 overtime field goal fest.
Dude, just somebody forfeit and it'll be 1-0. Just spare us the fucking misery, dude.
Broncos Chargers. The Broncos struggled last week. I expect that they'll rebound a little bit this week. I think that the old ball coach is going to light a fire underneath them, and that defense has too much pride to lose the Giants. So, but the Chargers are playing at home, if that's what you want to call whatever it is, that high school stadium they're playing at. Melvin Gordon is the guy, in this game. He is the guy in this game.
Hey, Joe, do you want to go to the Chargers game? We could probably find tickets for free.
Yeah, I'm sure they're paying people to go to the game at this point. Sad.
They'll probably put us up in a hotel and pay for our airfare to go too. All we have to do is wear blue and yellow. They'll pay for us. Melvin Gordon's definitely the guy in this game. The Broncos can be run on even before Darkwood did it last week. We've been saying it for 3 weeks. Like, the Broncos are not a scary run defense. They're a really scary pass defense. Like, I still don't want anything to do with anybody playing against them that's got receiver by their name. But they can be run on, and Melvin Gordon just gets great usage. He's up there with those guys we were talking about earlier. He gets great usage on the ground. He gets great usage in the air. He looks better this year than he did last year. Like, I got to hand it to him. Credit goes where credit's due. He's made improvements. His line is a little bit better. They've been less hurt this year. They're going to struggle to win ball games because they're in the AFC West, but Melvin Gordon is going to get the carries. Like, he's going to be a productive fantasy back, and I think he's going to go ham in this one. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with 120-plus yards, another 60 or so receiving. Like, he'll have probably close to a 200-yard all-purpose day, and it could be 2+ touchdowns as well. Like, he may be my favorite plus matchup running back this week, and I don't think he's, like, crazy expensive either, if I'm not mistaken. He's 7,000 for somebody that could score 30 points. Like, I'm all about that. I'm down for it. 3x value.
CJ Anderson for some unknown reason.
Unknown reason, Jesus. CJ Anderson had like 15 yards last week.
Yeah.
Like, I can get in an NFL game and get 15 yards. Book it. Like, guaranteed. I'll quarterback sneak 7 plays in a row. I'll get 15 yards.
On the Broncos side, Emmanuel Sanders is out. And Demaryius Thomas is limited, so I'm not playing anybody.
I have to tell you this. Can I give a special thank you to the Broncos for declaring their player out this early in the week? Like, thank you. Don't play games with me. I got a lot of fantasy teams, dude. I got 18 fantasy teams. I don't have time for this in and out bullshit. Like, I really appreciate them giving me the business early on in the week. I don't have the waiver wire time to dedicate to 18 leagues, dude. It's hard. It's really tough. So, for the people that give clear injury reports early on in the week and they're not ambiguous for their players, like, that is a huge help to us as fantasy owners. You know, if you need to go out and get somebody, you know, if you need to have a streaming option at receiver this week, don't play those guys. Like, go get a streaming option. There's plenty of good players that are available almost every week that'll get you 15+ points.
Yeah, I mean, if Demaryius Thomas was healthy, I'd definitely play him this week. They're going to funnel targets to him, but he's got a hurt ankle too, and the Casey Hayward's pretty good. So
Casey Hayward's still been playing good football. Like, he's been playing. He played against Amari Cooper last week. We told y'all, like, Amari Cooper wouldn't get back on track this week. There was a reason for that. He played Casey Hayward, and he had like 5 catches, but he had like 28 yards or some shit. Like, he's just, Casey Hayward's a solid ball player. He comes to play, dude. And I'm telling you, next year, either he or Jason Verrett will play first corner. I don't know if they still have the confidence in Verrett. He's a very good player. That's gonna be one of the best cornerback tandems in football. Like, you're gonna be looking at, if they draft another linebacker or two and they get their stuff together on the offensive line, like, they're gonna be a good football team coming up soon, as long as Phil can last, basically. But Casey Hayward's been playing
great in front of nobody.
Yep.
Falcons-Patriots Sunday night game should be a fun one.
This has to be the game of the week, right? Like, this got to be the game of the week.
I mean, it just screams game of the week. The Super Bowl was an amazing game, both from if you're playing fantasy Super Bowl things. If it were a fantasy game, it would have been a great game. I was in the fantasy playoff pick'em thing where you like get more points for people who last longer, and I picked exclusively Patriots and Falcons, so I murdered that league. But you know, it should be a good game. This is if the Falcons' offense is ever gonna get back on track, this is the game.
Yeah, I mean, if there's, I'm gonna be clear on this one. Bill is known for taking players out of the game. Julio cannot be taken out of a game. He cannot be taken out of the game. It's not possible. He's too good. He just can't be taken out of a game.
And you saw what happened in the Super Bowl, what he was doing. Like they were double covering him, and he was making catch after catch. He had 4 catches, and all 4 of them were impossible.
Yep. He's literally just, he goes man mode when he wants to. It all depends on if the Falcons actually want to get him the ball or not. Like that's what you need to pay attention to this game. If they don't do it this game, it may not happen this year. Like it just may not happen. It's too good of a matchup for it to not happen this week. I have to see something from the Falcons this week. Like I have to expect that the Falcons get back on track this week in some form and fashion. If they don't, they're just going to get decimated by the Patriots. Like they will get absolutely embarrassed by the Patriots in this game because the Patriots are still very good on offense. They play this dink and dunk crap, but it's effective. It's really effective for them. I don't know if Brady's hurt or whatever, but like he's looked really good on the short passes. And when he takes shots downfield, they're calculated and they look good. So they're going to get absolutely destroyed if they don't play a smart game in this game right here. But it should be an offensively powered game.
I love the Falcons running backs in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that the Pats have anybody who can deal with them.
Nope. They don't. A lot of teams in the NFL do not have.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Yeah. But when they especially don't, that's when you need to play these guys.
So I think both Freeman and Coleman are reasonable plays this week.
Yeah, I think so too. I have to play Julio too. Like we're gonna have to have Julio ownership somewhere, just because this has to be the game. Like it's got to be the game. I can't imagine that's not. Yeah, it really is. It's time. Who are you playing on the Patriots side? Who's the 2 players that go off this Patriots game?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm gonna say it. This Gillisley is gonna get a touchdown this week.
Okay. I think actually the Patriots running backs are pretty viable in this one too, because I think James White is going to be a space eater in this one. I think he's going to be a really, really big yards eater in this one. But I'm just going to keep playing Gronk. Like I still haven't seen anything that leads me to believe that Cooks is going to be something changed. Like he had a decent week last week. That's not going to happen all the time. And you know, Hogan is good for receptions, but the offense flows through Gronk every single week. Like that's the person that I want to play. I'm even willing to pay up for him in some of the cash games and stuff like that. He's too good. Like he's too good.
Yeah.
And then James White is usually just too cheap. Like he's really, really cheap.
Yeah, if the Falcons were playing better, I'd be tempted to include Amendola in that trio, right? So this is what Brady does when the game is on the line. He throws it to White, Amendola, and Gronk. That's it. The other people just totally never see the ball. Like before it was Edelman, now it's Amendola.
Yeah.
Like this is what he does. When Gronk was out, like we said, play Amendola. Guess what? Amendola had a good game. Like those are the guys. It's partly because you trust them, and it's partly because they operate in the area of the field that Brady is best in, which is the middle.
Yes.
Like he doesn't have a super strong arm anymore. He's not trying to throw it wide of the sticks. That's how you throw interceptions. It's how you get pick sixes, and he knows that. So what he does is he just operates over the middle of the field, and he's great at it.
Yep. Yeah, really great. Yeah, and he does. He has a huge amount of trust for those guys. And let's be honest. I mean, it's not all Brady. Like those guys really do their job well. They do their job and they execute properly, and they almost never let them down. And when you have a guy that operates at 99% effectiveness, like you're going with the 99% option when the game's on the line.
Yeah, let's be clear. James White is the worst running back on this team.
Yeah, he is.
He is the best one at doing his job.
Yep.
Like he is so mediocre, but he does exactly what he's told, and that means that he will play for the Patriots for a long time.
Yep. Until they decide to not give him a contract, he'll play for the Patriots for that long. All right, last game. It's the Monday night game. It's the Redskins-Eagles. This is going to be a showdown, dude. This is going to be a showdown right here. I think this is the week that the Redskins defense just gets exposed. Just exposed. Like, they're just going to get exposed for what they are. I'm not saying they're a bad defense, but they're a middle-of-the-road defense, right? Like, they're a 12 to 22 defense. They're not top 12. They're not top 11, rather, and they're not bottom 10 for sure. But they're somewhere in that middle ground, and they've been playing above expectations. The Eagles have just been operating like a well-oiled machine. Everything runs through that passing offense, and then Blunt's been effective on the ground. Like, I got to give credit where credit's due. I still don't think he's a good player, but he's averaged, I think, 4.9 yards after contact. Like, that's impressive. Like, I don't know if they're just giving him good holes and people are tapping him and then he's running away after that, but he's been really effective and he's found a way to generate a rushing attack for that team that really did not have one before the season started. So, I'm struggling to find anybody I don't like in this game. Like, I'm really struggling to find people that I don't like because the Chris Thompson is one of those guys. Like, I trust the Philly front seven a lot, but Chris Thompson is one of those guys where he's like Jerick McKinnon. He doesn't really line up and run straight at him. He finds a way to get around them a lot, and I give the advantage to him every time when he's running free in space against those guys. So
yeah, Chris Thompson is like James White. He's not really a running back.
Yeah, it's exactly right. He's an Andre Ellington. He's Jerick McKinnon. They're glorified receivers. Christian McCaffrey's a glorified receiver. That dude's not a running back. He's just a receiver. But it's fine. We can play him as running back in fantasy, so I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going for it.
But the only thing, I wasn't saying that in a derogatory way. What I meant is, like, in the same way that when the Patriots are playing a good running defense, you play James White. When the Redskins are playing a good rushing defense, then you play Chris Thompson. That's actually when you play those running backs. Yep. Yeah, I'm not crazy about I'm never crazy about the Eagles running game, but especially in this one, the Redskins defensive line has done a good job stopping the run this year. Whether they're doing it by smoke and mirrors or because of talent, I don't really care. They've just done a good job, and the Eagles aren't that committed to running it in the first place. I like Jamison Crowder more than I like Terrell Pryor in this one. But the Redskins passing attack is like, just play Kirk Cousins, don't play any of the receivers.
Yeah, that's really the only beneficiary of the whole thing. Sorry, I had players in my mind where I was thinking like, oh, this guy's good, this is a good play, this is a good play. There are definitely players that I would want to fade away in this game. I think that at this point, I'm only playing Kirk Cousins from that passing attack, maybe Jordan Reed, until I see way more commitment to funneling passes to some or only a few targets until I'm ready to play any of those guys anymore. Crowder's been just non-existent this entire year. And I mean,
it's actually amazing how good Kirk Cousins has been after the first 2 weeks, considering how like bad everyone not Chris Thompson has been.
Yeah,
from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah,
like,
at least from a fantasy perspective.
How do these stats
it's like, where are they? There's no numbers. Like, I don't get. He threw for like 330 yards last week, and all the regular guys have like 50 yards. It's like, wait a second. Like, where are the phantom yards? Like, I'm gonna start calling him the Phantom Menace if he doesn't start showing me who he's throwing the ball to. Like, he's really the prime example of somebody who's just the conductor of an orchestra, right? He just conducts the entire orchestra, everything goes along smoothly, and you never notice anyone being out of place.
I mean, this is even worse. This is even worse than the Saints used to be when
they would
spread the ball and you could only play Colston and hope for a touchdown. He wouldn't be that. This is even worse. This is so much worse than that even.
Yeah. This may be one of the worst cases of any offensive spread I've seen in the last 10 years, 15 years of my fantasy career.
Like, and they are a good offense, and they just don't have any playable players.
Yeah. Chris Thompson is the only playable player in PPR. Like, that's the only person that you would really want to have anything to do with. I don't get, or Kirk Cousins, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just it's unbelievable. On the Eagles side of the ball, they're doing a spread thing, but they're just like much more effective with it as far as getting it to the targets who matter. Like, yes, it may be a different guy each week, and yes, it may be not what you picked him up for at the beginning of the season, but at least there's some people you can point to and be like, all right, I can kind of count on this guy.
I mean, you can count on Ertz, right?
Yeah, you can 100%.
The only time he's had less than 5 or 6 catches, he caught 2 touchdowns, right? So, I mean, he's the guy.
He is unbelievable. He's playing very well, and he is extremely trusted. by Wentz. Wentz has been playing really well, by the way. I think, as a matter of fact, I think I saw that with Rodgers going down, he's the lead for MVP right now. He's like plus 175 in Vegas. So, and whether some of that is publicity, but some of that is just the fact that he's been conducting their offense well, and they're 5-1. Right? Defense has been playing solid. They haven't been giving up as much as we thought that they would, especially when we saw the cornerbacks before they traded to start the season. Their secondary can still be exploited, but Carson Wentz has just been playing extremely well. They've been rushing effectively. It's not great, but they've been rushing effectively, which is all they need. And then, your first look is Alshon. Torrey Smith is going to get a lot of passes. He's going to drop a lot. And then Nelson Aguilar is going to do the same thing just from the slot and not from the outside. So, I mean, that's basically what their offense is. And sometimes it's going to be productive. It's never going to really go backwards. It never really falls apart. They don't turn the ball over a whole lot. So, I mean, I trust them. I especially trust Wentz. And I trust Ertz. Besides that, I'll happy to play Alshon, especially with Norman being out. So, I don't mind playing everybody from this team. But yeah, the Kirk Cousins thing is just befuddling, dude. It's a mystery. It really is a mystery.
It's really, really amazing. I mean, keep playing him because he's playing great right now.
For sure. I drafted him in a league, or I think I have him in 2 leagues. I have a lot of leagues. I can't keep everybody straight. I'm pretty sure I drafted him in 2 leagues. One of them I started off just really slow because I knew he was going to be a slow starter, but I wasn't expecting him to some of the other players to be as slow starting. But man, since he's come back on, he's offered me a lot of flexibility, being able to count on a guy to basically get you 30 points every week. And it allows you to play either for some upside to take down a really good opponent, or it allows you to play safety, play pretty safe and just start your studs, get some points, make sure that you just don't do anything stupid. Man, it's just, it's like, I can't believe it. It's just, it's interesting, like how they manufacture their offense because they've been doing really well. So. You got any waiver wire ads this week? We got anything special we want to bring up? We really did just wing this episode. I don't know if I have anything else to say.
I can't believe that we're going to say this, but I think that the Giants running backs are like good waiver wire ads this week.
Yeah, I guess you got to say it. Yeah, I guess so.
The other one that is speculative, and I did this in one league, is Chris Ivory. In case Fournette's ankle is more than it seems, or if he does tweak it again, don't play him this week if Fournette's playing. But like, he looked good. And if something did happen to Fournette, like, they're gonna give him the ball 20 times a game.
Here's my thing with Ivory.
Owner should handcuff with Ivory. That should happen.
That's the first thing that I was gonna bring up.
Yeah, and if other people want to carry him around or pick him up and see what happens, I think he's a reasonable one. That's like, Fournette is getting a lot of usage, which is good for his owners, but is dangerous. And he's coming around with his ankle injury, and he runs very physically, so it's not unlikely that he's going to go down.
Yeah. The other thing to me is we're seeing a lot of this has actually happened a decent amount this year. We're seeing less running back by committees, and we're seeing more the workhorse and the guy that catches passes. We're seeing some of that come around this year. And we saw this in New Orleans where Ivory was able to catch passes effectively. And so in an offense where Blake Bortles is so crap, throwing the receivers at least, they may use a check down Charlie type of situation with 2 running back sets when Ivory comes in the game to spell Fournette. So if you want to pick him up in PPR leagues especially, I think he will be pretty helpful. He had 9 catches this past week. I mean, that's 10 targets period, no matter how you look at it. That's a lot for a running back. So he's especially useful to add in PPR leagues, and I think that he may wind up fitting that role if he can stay healthy himself. I think he'll wind up fitting that role pretty well as the pass-catching back to try and spell Fournette a bit. So that may be something to keep an eye on, too. So
yeah, the other thing is you need a tight end. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a guy we mentioned earlier, but as playable in DFS. But he's also, I mean, he's just been getting a lot of red zone stuff. And if you need a tight end at this point of the season, that's the best you can hope for, is that he gets a couple red zone targets and maybe catches one.
Yeah, I mean, those couple of red zone targets could be the difference between you winning and losing a week, because you're the other tight end that you thought was going to go off this week got 3 for 40, right? I mean, those red zone targets are because the tight ends are so bad and they're not spacey, they don't really there's only a couple of guys who will really get you yardage, right? There's only a couple of guys that will really get you yardage. So you need to figure out guys that are targeted around the end zone. Guys like Tyler Eifert and Tyler Croft, I'm assuming now will be. Guys like some of the Rams tight ends get targeted around the end zone. Jordan Reed gets targeted around the end zone. Obviously, Gronk is a monster in the end zone. Jimmy Graham catches a really good fade ball later on in the season when the Seahawks get rolling and stuff like that. Those are the guys that you need to learn or that you need to try and key in on. And if Safarian-Jenkins is going to be one of those guys that gets targeted around the end zone, add him to the list. He could be that guy that scores you 15 points, just on 2 passes kind of thing. Those are the kind of things you need to look out for. So that's going to be all for us this week. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's at Fantasy Elite FB. We're on Facebook.com/Fantasy Elite. Join our Discord. I'll make sure that I put it in the description. Also, guys, apparently I was notified of some trouble with the videos getting up and stuff like that. If you don't see them, let me know. Preferably sooner rather than later. I usually try and add them almost as soon as I don't do a lot of editing for these videos or anything like that. I basically just check them, make sure that everything went well, nothing egregiously wrong with them or anything like that, and then I put them up. So I want to get them out there so that if you didn't have a chance to watch live, you can get your info before it's time for the fantasy, week to start. And with us streaming on Wednesday, you have less than 24 hours before the week is officially starting. So if you want to get trades in, if you want to get waiver wire ads in, if you want to get people start sit advice and stuff like that, you potentially have 22 hours-ish to try and get that stuff squared away, and we usually stream for about an hour. So you start doing the math, you don't have a ton of time. I assume you got to sleep somewhere in there. So it's better to let me know as soon as possible rather than later or on Saturday when you said, oh, I didn't know who to start this week because I didn't see your video. And it's like, well, you should have let me know. I need to know faster than that. So get in touch with us. Send us an email if you have to. Get in the Discord. Say, hey, at me or Joe, and and let us know. Have one of our mods or something get in touch with us. We'll show you the guys that help us keep a monitor on everything. Send us a message on Twitter. Make sure that we get the video up so that it doesn't keep happening. I'll have to try and figure out what's going wrong with it, but I'll try and make sure that those past videos get up as well. But yeah, that's it. You got anything else, Joe? Good deal. All right, we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Stay classy.
Yeah.